plate mail, you're a thief.
I'm ready to play now, you guys.
We're in the middle, Elliot. Can't just join any universe in the middle.
I'm something of a historian, and when it comes to role-playing games, I certainly know the history, the historical context, and I know a lot of games, system-wise, setting-wise, you name it, really. I've got a pretty encyclopedic knowledge. So I was pleasantly surprised when someone asked me a question that I hadn't really considered before, and that was whether the video games crash of 1983 had really helped Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games to take off, because we're having something of a renaissance, something of a popularity boom for D&D, for good or ill. You can take it either way, depending on your point of view. But one of the major previous ones was about that same time, 83 to 85. I think the cartoon series was around then. E.T., which ironically would go on to be part of the, well, to be kind of the avatar of the video game crash, with all those, you know, console plugs cartridges going into landfill, right? That would be the iconic image of the video game crash, wouldn't it? So that's kind of ironic, given it had the scene in it. But you know, we had E.T. around then, we had the D&D cartoon around then. You know, it was really part of the public consciousness. The Satanic Panic was at one of its heights then as well. So did the video game crash cause D&D and other similar games to get a boost? Were people who couldn't and wouldn't and didn't want to play video games then, did they move over to D&D? Well, D&D and hence other RPGs came out of wargaming. Wargaming was very nerdy, mostly played by slightly older men and even more kind of spurgy and outcasty men than otherwise. But D&D broadened the appeal more. It kind of fed on what was left of hippies, I guess, and it also appealed to the more dramatically inclined and so on. So it went beyond the kind of maths crunching historical interest that a lot of people had in, say, the Napoleonic Wars or whatever, and carried that on and over into fantasy, the great fantasy battles in Tolkien's books or many other works. And that took off in the universities. Maths departments, few drama students, early computer science kind of people, they really took to D&D, and that was in the kind of late 70s through to the early 80s. And you know, when they went home for the holidays, they took their games with them and they played them there. It took off amongst students because it was cheap, it appealed to their geekery, it was a good excuse to get together with friends and pass the bong around or whatever else. That's why it took off. It was cheap, it was social, it was sociable, it appealed to the boom in fantasy and science fiction at the time, especially as the games took off and broadened. So that was that boost. That's why it took off, because it latched onto that community who then kind of made the whole industry. Once we get to 83, 84, 85, you know, it's taking off with other people. You know, and it is becoming a cemented cultural phenomenon that everyone at least has heard of, even if they don't understand it at that point. And then you have the video game crash in 83, but it only lasts to 85, which is when the Nintendo Entertainment System comes out. So it's only a 2-year period, so yeah, I don't think it can be responsible, but it certainly will have given tabletop gaming a bit of a boost. Just, I don't think it's that responsible. I don't think it will have been that big of a boost, because that's only a 2-year window. Now, the NES, when it came out, was the equivalent of about $400 today, which is about the equivalent of what a PS4 goes for today. Of course, one's at the beginning of its cycle, one's at the end, but you take the point. And at the time, that would have represented a bigger investment of the money that was available. People have a bit more disposable income now, so it's not a direct comparison. But also, homes were less likely to have more than one screen in them at the time, perhaps less so in the States. So I don't think that's it. Gaming, tabletop gaming really took off, again, because it was relatively cheap. You get a lot of bang for your buck out of games. It's hard to think of anything that is a greater value for money. You get to look at the art, you get to read the book, you get to make characters, you get to play, you get to create settings and adventures and so on. It's not just the play of the game that is the game. It's not just the play of the game that is the entertainment that you get from it. Everything else is, right? So you get many, many, many times what you pay out. So the budget part has always appealed, I think, though people have a different kind of sense of the worth for some reason. Role-playing games are also social. They remain social, even if lots of people are playing online now, and that has its drawbacks and shortcomings. That's part of its appeal. The ritual, the getting together, the seeing your friends in person, the junk food or the pizza, or some people make a proper meal of it and turn it into like a dinner party, you know, all sorts. And the freedom to create your own world, your own character, to interact with the world in any way, something that computer games still can't offer you. Probably won't be able to for some time still. You know, these are the things that made tabletop gaming endure, made it succeed. They're the things that make it succeed still today. So I don't think that the video games the video game crash could have had that much of an effect. It couldn't have hurt, but it couldn't have helped too much, I don't think, looking into it. No, the strengths, the things that make gaming endure, the things that make gaming such a consuming hobby, such an interesting hobby, such a creative hobby, such an available hobby, you know, they're the same things they always have been. And I think we see that because there's the boom today. And despite Steam's shovelware, we're not seeing another video game crash yet. And if we do, I don't think we'll see that massive a shot in the arm for tabletop gaming again either. But it was an interesting question to consider. If you like the footage of the side-scrolling beat-em-up D&D game, that's either Shadows over Mystara or Tower of Doom. I can't remember which one I found the footage for. If you want something similar today, Dragon's Crown is a good substitute. Some people criticise it over the art style, which is more kind of anime-y, but it's beautiful and it plays in that same kind of Golden Axe-y type way, but with some of the roleplay-y elements, the system elements that Shadows over Mystara and so on had. So, recommended. Zang. A problem for every games master has always been coming up with adventure ideas. For years now, Postmortem Studios has been helping out with the 100 Adventure Seeds line. These provide adventure ideas for all genres, and you can get them at RPG Now or lulu.com.